Hey everybody, welcome to an exciting video series that I have for you today. It is going to be about Power Platform Application Lifecycle Management. That's the ALM piece that you're seeing here on the screen. And my goal is to make this about as easy and as painless as possible for you. And I'm going to try to do this for you quickly inside of 4 videos. And I said operative word try, but there is a lot of information to cover here. But hopefully this will demystify a lot of this. I got to be honest with you, when I first tried doing this, I don't know, back in the day here, there were a lot of videos, and there still are a lot of videos online, but nobody kind of connects all of the dots and shows you the process from end to end. They show you like pieces in the middle, pieces in the front, to the middle, pieces in the middle, maybe to the back. And you got to watch like, I don't know how many different videos just to kind of get this thing figured out. But I want to try to do all of this for you in one series of 4 videos. Probably will be a total of maybe 40 minutes to an hour in length. So let's just try to go through this as quick as we can, okay? So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is the overview of this 4 series videos. This video, which is the one in pink-ish, I guess, I don't know what color that is to be honest with you. But in any event, what we want to talk about is creating a service principal, and this is going to be an account that we're going to use throughout the entire process of the application lifecycle management. In the second video, we're going to take this service principal and we're going to give it the role of system administrator for the environments in the Power Platform. I'll show you what that looks like in the second video. And then what we want to do in the last 2 videos in this series, whoops, I got a little ahead of myself. In the last 2 video series, what we want to do is show you some DevOps stuff. Some DevOps stuff using a PowerShell script that I created that calls and uses and leverages the command line interface for Power Platform. And it's called the Power Platform CLI. It used to be called the Power Application CLI. In any event, we're going to show you some DevOps with that. It's 100% free. It's a great tool, free utility, supported by Microsoft, really great stuff. And then, of course, the king of DevOps is going to be Azure DevOps. Now, there can be, depending on how you implement this, if you're a one-man band, it'll be free. There's a little bit of a pain in the neck now getting it set up because you got to send an email. It takes maybe 2, maybe 3 days for you to get some stuff turned on. But nonetheless, it is doable, it is free, and I have a template for you so that it'll get some quick, get you accelerated and started quickly. And it also uses the Power Platform build tools, which is an extension. So we'll get into all of this in that video as well. All right, so that's kind of the overview of what's going on. But this one is about how to create a service principal. So to begin with this video, you're going to need to go to this Git repo, and I'll put this link in the description below so you'll have a nice, easy, quick access to it. And once you download it, we'll show you, I need to show you a trick about, unfortunately, if you're using Windows 10, kind of a real pain in the neck thing that'll get you hung up if I don't show it to you. So I will digress in a little bit to show you that. So what I want to talk to you is about Azure Active Directory, and let's talk about Service Principal and where it fits into the very big picture of security. And there's even another item on here that I'll reference verbally. I don't have it in writing, but in any event, Azure Active Directory is the Azure's version of what used to be Active Directory on-prem, and it has a bunch of additional services and stuff that you can do, mainly Service Principal. Now, Service Principal also goes by another name, so you may be confused by the term Service Principal, or maybe not, but application registration is something else that goes synonymously hand in hand with the term service principal. And so this kind of fits in the 3 items that you see on screen: a user account, a service account, and a service principal. Let's talk about this for a minute. So in Azure Active Directory, everybody knows what a user account is because if you log in to anything in Azure or Microsoft Office 365, you're using a user account, okay? So the service principal is just like a user account. As a matter of fact, it is a it is a user account. There's nothing that you're going to find by the terminology that says a service account versus user account. It's all a user account, okay? The difference is, how do you intend to use this user account? See, user accounts are tied to people, and when people come and people go out of your organization, you activate, or, well, first you create, and then when they leave, chances are you deactivate the account, right? And so the same thing with a service account. You can create it and you can deactivate it, but it's not tied to a human being. The whole premise of this is that you want something to persist. So the use case is you've got an application or you've got some services. It needs to run uninterrupted, and it can't be tied to a human being and your employee turnover. Because if that person leaves, and I'm sure you may have experienced this before, and if you have, then this is usually the fix that happens. You create what's called a service account. And so as people come and go, you don't get stuck in that pickle. And whatever this account is connected to, it doesn't run the risk of going down or having an outage, because that employee now is no longer with the company. And unfortunately, that technician or the person who set it up used their account, and now they're gone. And now, for whatever reason, that service is gone. The problem with service account is if you've ever gone to any enterprise level security training, or even just followed or read some articles on best practices, one of the things they teach you, ironically, is to never, ever, ever share your password with others. Well, the problem with a service account is it breaks this golden rule, right? You go ahead and you share it amongst, I don't know, a handful of technicians in your workplace, and everybody shares the password. And typically when you do have employee turnover, based on anybody that had access to the service account and its password, you would simply just recycle or cycle the password through to some other new password, and then reshare and redistribute that password amongst those trusted users. Well, the problem with that is it kind of, again, it breaks that methodology. So service principal is kind of a whole nother animal, and that's what we're going to be using here. It's more secure than a user account and a service account. And I kind of say this in a way that is kind of tongue-in-cheek, because the principle is the same, or the idea is. Unfortunately, the passwords are very long. They're actually GUIDs, and they're hard to remember. I mean, yes, you can copy them down, which makes it potentially insecure, especially if you don't change the secret or whatever, or rotate out the secrets. But there are ways of using Azure Key Vault services to mitigate this, to make this more secure. So the service principal, just like a user account, just like a service account, it has an ID. It's called an application ID. It's also a GUID, so it's not like some human readable name thing, although it does have a name property to it. And the password to it's not called password. It's called a secret. And that's only one of two ways that you can have an authentication mechanism with this. Another way of using an authentication mechanism for service principal is to use what's called a certificate. Very similar to like an SSL certificate. Not exactly, but just to use the term certificate so you could try to wrap your head around it a little bit better. So you have two authentication mechanisms on the service principal, that being the secret as well as the certificate. In this video, we're going to show you the secret. So the same principle is going to apply about protecting your password, protecting the secret. If people get a hold of it, it's going to be a problem. If people come and go, you want to make sure you change out the secret. And then anything that's connected to it that uses it, you want to make sure you change out the passwords as well. So again, just a quick blurb, I don't want to read to you, but Azure's service principal, it's an identity created with application, hosted services, automated tools, blah, 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 right? That's the intended use for it. And we're going to use it here in this video series on the Power Platform, because that is our target use case for this. All right, so that's it for this video. In video number 2, up and coming, again, we're going to get and show you how to assign the service principal into the environments. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and jump over into the desktop. And I want to take you over. I told you I wanted to digress very quickly. So here we are in GitHub. I told you I'll leave a link in the description below. Just come over here to this code area and choose to download the zip. Now, do not open the zip. Do not unpack the zip. You've got to do something to it first if you're on Windows 10. So let me go over to Downloads, and here's my zip file. Here's what you need to do. Right-click on it and choose Properties with a left click. The reason I had you go here is because I want you to take notice at the very bottom. You see the security read thing that's down here? Because I downloaded it from the internet, it's blocking it. And you want to choose this Unblock. And then click Apply. And now everything's good to go, and you can proceed as you normally would. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to unpack this, zip file here. I'll come over here to Extract All. We'll just go ahead and put it out in the Downloads folder. And we'll come, I don't know what, Why my windows are jumping around here. Let me just go back into downloads. Get rid of this zip file. We'll delete that. Okay, so here is our main file now, and inside of here we have a folder structure. What we want to do is we want to go into the Create Service Principal folder, and here's the thing. If I right-click in Properties again, you notice that that security thing isn't there. The reason I had you do it to the zip file and not wait till later, till after you've unpacked it, and so this is what you're going to run into if you go do this in haste and don't do what I showed you here. If you unpack it, now you're going to have to go to every single file and unblock every single shell script in this video series that I'm going to show you, because every time you want to run it, it's going to be blocked. So just make sure to unblock the zip first, then unpack it, and then you won't run into any problems, okay? Now, my scripts, I also have them signed. So the script signatures are there. I want to show you this script a little bit. I know if you don't read code, that's fine. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I just do want you to go into the script file and know that it's there. So this stuff that's in green, this is part of the help file. If you know how to use PowerShell and the help file system, just let you know I've baked into the help into the script. What I do want you to take note of is that I do have a dry run switch parameter that you can use. If you specify dry run, it'll go through a dry run. It'll emulate what it would actually do in the real world without actually creating anything. There's some information here for some different parameters and switches, and I just wanted to bring to your attention that one of the parameters that I have in here, which I'm actually having a hard time locking my eyes on a hold of. Here it is right here. The expiration date. Right now I have this thing dying in 365 days. So this service principal will remain valid for a period of 1 year. You can change it by making it longer, or you can change it by making it shorter. It's up to you. Okay, so that's a parameter that you can go ahead and run. So just wanted to show you that stuff that's there and in the file. I also digitally signed this signature, my signature. So I'm using a certificate signing. I'll show you this one more time towards the bottom of the script. That way you know it's there. So towards the very bottom, I tell you that the script is digitally signed below by me, blah, 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 blah. Long story short is you're more than welcome to change this file all you want. But if you change the file, you're going to render the certificate because there's a file hash at the current. When I signed it, it took a snapshot of the file. And as a result of that, there's like a hash that has to do with what's in the file. And so the hash will no longer match as soon as you make the slightest change to this file. So don't change it and save it, because if you do, you're going to break the signature file. And this is tied to, in PowerShell, what's called the execution policy. So I'll just launch up PowerShell, and I'll do get execution policy. And so mine is set to remote signed. I think most of yours are set to that way. If you have it to all signed and the rest of them, my scripts should still work because it is signed. Again, unless you've altered it. One of the things that you can do visually to make sure that the file is good, if you right click on the file, again, go back to properties, under this digital signature tab, you can see that it's signed. So first, the fact that the digital signature tab is here, you know that it is signed. But if you have to click onto this and then click in details, you always want to make sure that the digital signature is okay. And right now it is okay. And the reason it's okay is because I haven't changed the file. So if you change the file and save it and come back here and do this, it'll probably tell you that the signature is no longer valid. And unfortunately, at that point, you have nothing else left to do except for to remove my signature block, which will then remove the digital signature, and you won't see this tab anymore. And then your remote execution policy, you may have to change it depending on, I don't know, whatever, not remote execution policy, but your execution policy, you may have to change it to accommodate for the script to be run. All right, so enough said. Let's go ahead and launch up the SE. At this point, I'm going to switch over to CD. I think I can do profile. Actually, it's an environment variable. What is it? env colon pro. Probably been easier just to type this in here. Profile course, I don't type that quick. Is it user profile? I never remember. Yeah, user profile. There we go. All right. CD downloads. No. All right, finally navigated my way through all of this mess just to be able to get to the file, okay? So here's the file. Again, new Power Platform Service Principal. I'm going to show you what it does and how it works with the dry run. So I'm just going to go ahead and log this in. Now, this will normally, if you run this for real in the real world, it will go ahead and create all this accounts at 2 different levels. And in order to do that, it needs to sign you in twice. So this is the first prompt. All right, so there's the first time. In the dry run, it doesn't do it, but you can see that the script's done. And so at the end of the day, what we want to grab out is this tenant ID, the application ID, and then this client secret, okay? And you can see the application ID says it's dry run, no application was created. So if I go ahead and come down and we clear out the screen again, and we go ahead and run the script and do a switch, you see all of these different parameters. Again, run the help file. You're going to want to read all of that. But to run it, if you're here in the United States and your tenant is here locally in the United States using regular Azure Cloud, you can run it just like this. If you're not in the United States and or your tenancy is not here in the United States, or you're using a different Azure Cloud besides Azure Cloud, like maybe China Cloud or what are the U.S. government or U.S. Cloud. I think there's actually, let's just go ahead and look at it because I don't remember. Let's see here. I think it's Azure Environment, and we have China Cloud, Azure Cloud, Germany Cloud, and U.S. Government Cloud. So those are the clouds that you get to choose from, and the Azure Cloud is the default one if you don't make a choice. But again, if you're here domestically, just run it head on and you'll be good to go. So I'm running this again. I've already got the prompt the first time, so I'm not going to get it. I will get it the second time, and as soon as I go ahead and authenticate that in, then what will happen is it'll go ahead and create that service principal for me. Okay? So that being said, there's a bunch of good and useful information on this screen, but what I want to do is just copy out these 3 lines. I'm going to grab Notepad++ because I want to paste it in here, because if you don't copy this out right now and you close this window, you're never going to get access to this client secret. And then you're kind of going to be up the creek without a paddle. You'll have to delete the secret, you'll have to recreate the secret, and then copy out the secret because you didn't copy it out the first time. All right, so the name of the application is up here. You'll see this right here, created an 8AD application. The name is called PowerPlat SPN, and then it's got the year and the time that it was created, okay? So if we pop over into the Azure Portal, and I go ahead and I refresh this. And by the way, let's go from the home so you know how I got here. Click on Azure Active Directory or find Azure Active Directory, click into it, then come down here to App Registrations on the left sidebar, and now click over either into Owned Applications, you'll see it show up, or you'll see it over here in the All Applications. And here it is, my PowerPlat SPN, and then the date, which is today, and then the timestamp, which was at about 8:57 a.m. in the morning is when I created this. And here you'll see all of the different configuration stuff that was done. So here are the API permissions that this script went ahead and set up for you, right? So there's nothing else left for you to do here. Everything is already configured with all the access that is needed to the APIs. You've got the Graph API, the Power Apps Runtime Service, which essentially is access to the common data service. So all of this information has been pre-programmed into this script for you. You don't have to run any of that. All right, so now with this script been, already run, and we've copied out the tenant ID, application ID, and client secret ID, we are now ready to begin our second video. So go ahead and catch us in the next video. Thanks.